spiritual governor of Earth, but also of that planet in the binary system of Capella. As a matter of fact, Chico Xavier told me that Jesus Christ is the head, the governor of 5 planets. One that is already a happy place that surrounds the trinary system of Sirius. The other one, which is nowadays regenerated in Capella, surrounding the binary system of Capella. Of course, Earth, which is up to this date a trials and how do you say it?
Trials and
expiations planet, yeah. And also a planet that nowadays is very primitive. That Chico Xavier told me that its name is Chiron in another planetary system. And nowadays Jesus Christ himself is forming a 5th planet so that he can guide the life there also. So it is not a coincidence that Jesus Christ received all the exiled spirits from Capella here on Earth, because there is a law of solidarity and fraternity between those 5 planets. And you can see different versions of the same book. And not today we're going to speak about those 3 chapters. Chapter 3, Chapter 5, and Chapter 6. All of them are related to the Aryan civilization on Earth. As I told you, those spirits that were expelled from Capella, they gathered here on Earth in 4 different groups, and also in 4 different times. That's why the exile from them, for them, it was not at once. They came in different times. The first ones are the ones that we are going to talk about today, the Aryans. The second ones were the Hindu people. The third ones, the Egyptians, and the last ones, the Hebrews. Those 4 ethnic groups, they gathered here in the same sympathies and sympathies, and also regarding their beliefs, their expressions, their culture, that were reality in Capella and stayed reality here on Earth. As you know, Capella, if we see the northern hemisphere view, you can see right here in the constellation of Cocheiro or Auriga. Okay? It is just some facts about Capella. The light would take 42 years, traveling the speed of light of 300,000 kilometers per second. And if we could go in this velocity, would take us 42 years to reach Capella. And so it's about 9,460,800,000,000 kilometers from here. It represents 63,072 times the distance between Earth and the Sun. So although it's a very distant planet, a very distant star system, it is considered in our neighborhood. 42 light years is nothing in universal measures. So we have those spirits that came to Earth. Some 12,000 years ago, and the last ones 7,000 years ago, between 10,000 BC and 5,000 BC. And the first ones that came to Earth would incarnate in this region here. That's the Aryans. After that, they would migrate to the Tigers and Tibers here, where today is Iraq and Iran. The second group is the Hindu or Hindi that stayed here in the Indus Valley. The third group, of course, the Egyptians that formed the Egyptian civilization. And with that, after that, the Hebrew that also incarnated here and then migrate to Palestine. You can see here that there is the Yellow River in China. They were not exiled from Capella. They were exiled from another planet, and they were here on Earth before the Capella exiles. All the yellow ethnic group on Earth, Japan, Korea, China, all those groups, they came from a different planet. They were also exiled, but not from Capella, and most probably from the star system of Aldebaran. And the four great civilizations in the Aryans that migrated, they migrated to the Indus Valley also. They migrated to Mesopotamia, to where today is Iraq and Iran and all the Middle East. Also the Egyptians, but also the Aryans, they didn't stay in one place. They traveled all over Europe, Asia, Central Asia, the Indus Valley, also the Ganges Valley in India, and also the Middle East and the North Africa. That's why they are very important. They shape our reality here on Earth, because they were not fixed in one place. They travel all around Earth. So if we see the ages of history on Earth, the arrival of the Capellas exiles were between here the Mesolithic time, the prehistorical time of Mesolithic, and also the the Neolithic time, between 10,000 BC and 5,000 BC. Of course, those are the Aryans, the first ones that came, and Emmanuel wrote through Chico Xavier that before them there were no white skins, white ethnicity here on Earth. There were only the black ethnicity and also the yellow ethnicity.
So they came from Capella too?
All they came from, not those ones. The Aryans were the first from Capella, and then came the Hindus,
from Capella.
Yeah, from Capella, the Egyptians, and the Hebrews. And this is the region of Earth where they came first. Central Asia, right? This very center of Asia here. And we can see here, today, this is the right? Iraq, Iran, and it's north of Iran, north of Afghanistan. Here the Aryan origins are here. This is a sea that was named Aral, and from that, and that sea was formed by two big rivers. You see the rivers here? One is here, the other one is here. All the way. The Syrian rivers, both has the name of Syrian, and they form the Aral Sea that nowadays are dried out. But in those times, there was plenty of water that time, and they took their name from the name of those rivers. They named those rivers, right? And one of the biggest civilizations of the Aryans was the Andronovo civilization that conquered all this Central Asia. Also the BMAC civilization, the Yas civilization, the Swat, all of that are the first civilizations of the Aryans. You can see here one important revelation through Shikosharya, because in the notes after the chapter 3 of In the Way of to the Light, Emmanuel says that the first migrations from the Aryan people started here at Mount Pamir. You see here the Mount Pamir? It's very close to the Himalayas, okay? You can see the snow here. So at that time, when Chico Xavier wrote that in Brazil, through his psychographic mediumship, Emmanuel wrote that in the notes after chapter 3. At that time, in 1937, the anthropology, they didn't know about that, about Mount Pamir first settlements. It was not known by history. 80 years passed here in the 21st century that those first settlements they were discovered by anthropology and the science, right? And here we can see where it all started. There's a photograph of those mountains in the Pamir region. Today is Tajikistan, the country that holds this site. It's Tajikistan, right? You can see the rivers. It's all very mountain. That's why it took so long to discover those ancient sites. And of course, full of rivers, big rivers. All of them result from the ice of the higher mountains. So you can see here Iran, right? Here, Afghanistan, and here Tajikistan. And the site that they came first is right here in Tajikistan nowadays. And also his neighbor of Uzbekistan and Turkmenistan. All of those are countries that were separated after the Soviet Union just stopped to exist. And you can see here also the Pamir Valley and the rivers that were so important to those first settlements. And here, the region so important to the development of Earth. From that spot, they spread all over Central Asia. They spread all over the Indian Valley here in the south, and also they went west, where today's Iran, Iraq, the Middle East, and then they entered also Europe through through Turkey, and also through the nowadays Slavic countries. You can see also both rivers. They are the Amu Darya and the Sir Darya rivers. Here is the Sir Darya river, and here is the Amu Darya. Where's the here, Amu Darya river. So this is the Pamir. You can see here that the Mount Pamir is very close to the Himalayas. Came south to the Indus River, and up north to the Darya River, to the Central Asia here. And they migrated to everywhere. And Emmanuel tells us one interesting thing. From those 4 different ethnicities that came from Capella, the Aryans have one thing that the other 3 didn't. They had the desire to mix with the Earth's population. They were not, in a sense, proud of their origin, and they did not care that the earthly people were, in a sense, very not developed, and they mixed together with the local populations. This is one positive thing that Emmanuel says about the Aryan civilization. And that's one thing why we all can be related to them, because in a sense we descend from them, because they mixed up with the earthly populations. But they have also one big mistake. They had one big problem. From Capella, they were the only group of people that were not religious. They did not believe in God. They didn't have religious practices. And they were, in a sense, very materialistic, very practical, very materialistic. And they also were very revolted because they lost their paradise, in a sense, what that was Capella. And because of that, when they arrived here on Earth, Emmanuel told us that they would think, okay, we are here in a different planet. Let's make this planet our planet. And because of that, we're also very violent and very warriors. And as soon as they arrived here, they started the wars.
Very aggressive.
very aggressive, yes. They did not have prejudice, but they were very aggressive. They were, in their mind, they had to conquer all of Earth, right? And to submit all the human populations. So the first, here's the Pamir here, right? And the first civilizations that started, all of them, the Andronovo, the Sinkasia, the Afanasyevo, the Bimak, all of them, those were first civilizations of the Aryans. And you can see here that we now can test the information of Emmanuel, how they migrate all over Central Asia, India, the Middle East, Europe. You can see all those pathways that they conquer in their migrations all over the earth. There is a sketch of Aryan warrior, and there comes a time around 2600 BC that they resolved to conquer also the Indian subcontinent. Of course, they were situated north of the Indian subcontinent, and they decided to go south, and they implemented a very profound transformation in the Hindu society, because the Hindus that also came from Capella, they were here already. Mainly, they were situated here in the Indus Valley. This very, how do you say, fertile, this very fertile region of India nowadays, the Indus Valley, the Indus Valley. And they, in the first, they came here, the civilization of the Indus Valley, and then the civilization, the Vedic civilization, that came about around 1400 BC. And this civilization received the influence of the Aryans. And it's very important in the history of India, and also in the history of all languages, that most of the countries, I would say almost 80% of all the countries nowadays speak languages that derive from those Sanskrit language, the mother language of the Hindu, the Hindi, and the Aryans. So the first migration from Capella for the second group, that was the Hindus. They situated here in the Indus Valley. They have their most important city, the Mohenjo-Daro, which nowadays is the largest archaeological site of the world. This city is known to have at least 80,000 inhabitants. And the second one, largest one, was the Harappa city. And at that time, they were only the Hindi civilization from Capella. Then came this phase is called the Harappan phase of the Indian history. Now, the Aryans came from the north, invading those fertile earth here, right? and they took over. And the first period was the invasion of the Aryans in India, and the second period was the fusion of the Indian society, the Hindu society, with the Aryans. This fusion happened to be around 1400 BC. And you can see that why this is important, because it's the Vedic history of India, and also the origin of almost all religion on earth came from the influence of the Hindu that passed away to the Aryans their notions of spirituality, of reincarnation, of mediumship, of heaven in their sense. And so that the second river dried out, and they migrate all the way to the Ganges River. You can see here the Ganges River that is born in the Himalayas and cross all north of India until nowadays Calcutta and Bangladesh. So this north of India nowadays all were conquered by those Aryans invaders, and they mixed up with the Hindu society. Why is that so important? Because this time we have the textbook of this time, which is called the Vedas. And the Vedas is nothing more than books of knowledge. And they are so much important now until this day, because we can say that only 10% of those writings are translated, are understandable to our culture nowadays. Only 10%. We still have 90% of those writings that we don't comprehend. And some of them are very advanced, because they speak of flying machines. They speak about atomic bombs. They speak about a nuclear war. And they speak about annihilation. Of course, our historians are kind of, surprised about all of those things, because we know that Earth didn't have that technology at that time. But as a matter of fact, what are they speaking about? They are speaking about the nuclear war that took place 7,000 years ago, 5,000 years BC, not here on Earth, but in the planet that they came from, surrounding the binary system of Capella. Xavier told me that himself, and because of that destruction is why they were degraded, they were exiled or expelled from Capella and exiled here on Earth, right? But the Vedas is the way that they could express themselves and pass away to the future generations that are us, that can now comprehend what they are talking about. And in this time, you can see all the paintings and all the representations of the Vedic society in India. You can see a dark skin, the Hindu, and a light skin, the Aryans. You can see here the dark skin and the white skin. Of course, the Vedas are a holy, sacred knowledge for them, right? And their main language is the mother language of all our language, the Sanskrit. And also there is the Rig Veda. The Rig Veda is the writings of hymns and poems that they chanted their hope to go back to their land in Capella. And also it's important to know that in that time the main religious concept of God came from those men and women in the Vedic society, the one that divided God in three persons: Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. Of course, Brahma is, as they say, the creator of everything. Vishnu is the conserver of everything, and Shiva is the destructor of everything. That's why in the Roman Catholic and culture, they also have the sacred Trinity: God, the Creator, the Holy Spirit, and Jesus. Right? It's an earlier concept that were brought to Christianism, as Lucas wrote, and we can see that in the book of Chico Xavier, Paul and Stephen, in the city of Antiochia of Syria, because Antiochia was a commercial and an open city in times of philosophers and religions, and also a commercial city that united the Far East, the Middle East, and Europe. And at that time, the Indians, the Hindu people that came to Antiochia, brought those concepts to Christianity in the first century. And unfortunately, those early Christians, most of them were combated by John the Evangelist and Ignacio de Antioquia, but they could not cope with that, interpolation of reality. But it's important because from this notion, the Aryan and the Hindu society influenced all human civilizations in terms of philosophy and religion. Nowadays, we can see the Hindu people, and here is the Sanskrit, the modern language of us all. Why it's so important? Because as the Aryans did not settle in one place, like the Hindus they did settle in the Indian subcontinent. The Egyptians settled in nearby the Nile River, and the Hebrews also settled in the Nile River, and then after that in Palestine, right? And they stayed there, and they constructed a way of living that everyone else except them were put apart. Like in India, they established the castes society, and in Egypt they established also the hierarchy of the illuminated, and also in the Hebrew society they closed themselves, and they could not marry, they could not interrelate with other ethnicities, and so that they stayed closed. They stayed in a way very closed societies. Different from that, the Aryan people didn't care I'm here. They thought, I'm here on earth, and earth will be my paradise. I don't care anymore about Capella. Earth will be my paradise, so that I want to rule here. And to rule here means that I can and I must mix up with all human societies, all earthly beings, so that I can travel and I can conquer. So because of that, all those, this is 530 BC. You can see here in 530 BC, all this green area, almost all of Europe, the Central Asia, also Turkey here, which is the Lydian society, the Middle East here, especially Iran, the Old Persian, the Medians, and the Parthians, East Iranian, all the Armenians, all of Middle East here, and also the Indics from India, the Scythians from Central Asia, and also here we can see the ancient Greeks here, the Celtics, the Proto-Slavics, the Proto-Baltics, the Proto-Germanics, which also is the origin of the English people, right? All of that in 530 BC were in effect. And of course, as they traveled all around those areas, and they mixed up with the original population, the earthly populations, primitive populations of those areas, they invented new languages. Understand? And also important is the Iranic languages. They are also Aryans. Nowadays, all those languages that came from Syria to Pakistan, all of them are consequences of the Aryans mixing with the local populations. You can see every color here is one different language. You see here the Kurds between Turkey and Syria and Iraq. You can see the Iranian here. You can see the Afghanistan here, the Pashtun here, North Pakistan, the Baluchistan here is South Pakistan, the Tajikistan here, all of that. Those are called nowadays the Iranic language, and they were all derived from the Aryan society, the Hindus' Aryan society. And the genetic division of Iranic languages also started with the Proto-Iranic and was divided over the time, over the period of time, the centuries, and the places that they were settled. And now we can see the influence of the Hindu, the Aryan Hindu or Indo-European languages, that when they arrived in Europe, they brought to existence all those languages that we speak today. English, Danish, Norwegian, Sweden, Germany, Italian, Portuguese, Spanish, French, Greek, all of those languages, they are all related to the mother language of Sanskrit and are descendant of the Indo-European origin. You can see here even the Hindic nowadays spoken in North India. Here the Iranian that is spoken in Iran and Pakistan. Here we can see the Armenian. We can see also the Anatolian or Turk. We can see here the Greek, the Albanian, the Latin languages in blue, which is Romanian, Italian, French, Spanish, and Portuguese, and all small languages like the Gallic, and also the Anglo-Saxon languages, Germany, Dutch, Danish, Sweden, Norwegian, English, and Icelandic. And also the Celtic languages, like in Ireland and in Britain, they are all derived from the Indo-Aryan languages. Nowadays, almost all of Europe speak in languages that derive from that source. One exception, the Hungarian. The second exception, the Finland language. Only 2 countries don't speak Indo-Aryan languages. And of course, nowadays you can see the Indo-European family, all the Slavic countries, Russia, Ukraine, Belarus, Poland, Czech Republic, all of them. Also the ones here near the Baltic and around here, the Albanians, the Greeks, Germany, Austrians, the Swiss, the Hollands, and Belgians and Hollands, the Danish people, the Swedes, the Norwegians, Great Britain, and Iceland, and here France, Italy, Spain, and Portuguese. And here is the tree of languages that came to existence because of the Aryan people. You can see all those green ones are the ones that are spoken nowadays in some countries. And the red ones are the ones that are dead. They are not spoken nowadays. But if we count every green language that is spoken here in this tree of Indo-Aryan people, Indo-Aryan languages, we have 176 languages. And so that we can understand their very profound influence in our culture, in our way of living, right? We can see here, let's see, the Portuguese is around, here's Portuguese. And before Portuguese, the Galician, that is spoken in Santiago de Compostela and Galicia, north of Spain, and so on. And also English is around here. But this is very interesting, isn't it?
Wow.
Como passa aqui? Maurício? Help me. Acho que acabou a bateria.
While he does that, can I ask a question?
Sure.
The Bhagavad Gita, I cannot even say. It comes from the Vedas?
Yes. But that's another story because we have to go more deeply into the Hindu society. Okay? Doesn't work. Yeah. Nowadays, the countries that speak one Indo-European language are those in green. The more green is widely spoken. The light green is not widely spoken, but more than 50% of the population speak. And also you can see the blue ones. The blue ones here also are the Turkish language. Thank you. That also is from those origin, like the Turks, the Syrians, the Lebanese, and also the Uzbekistan, and here the Latins. So you have almost 80% of the countries on Earth speaking languages from that people. Here's an interesting design from one very known Aryan. He was the head of the Huns, Attila, and he conquered many parts of Central Asia, India, and West, also to the Balkans, to the eastern part of Europe. You can see here in Europe, the Huns dominated almost everything in the center of Europe, and nowadays the Slavic countries. He lived in the 5th century after Christ. Do you know who he is? Adolf Hitler, one of the incarnations of Adolf Hitler. And here, eu vou precisar é só para colocar esse filme. And here is, to close our lecture today, we are going to see Europe from 600 BC to nowadays, and why it is always, all over those centuries, we have different wars. Tecla embaixo. It's very interesting because we can understand the problems with war, and the aggressiveness, the desire to conquer. Deixa eu jogar aí. Não tá? É. Precisa, né? Yeah. You can see the influence here of the Aryans arriving in Europe and conquering the sites and the countries and everything. And as they enter, they are forming new societies, new nations, new empires, and so on. This, as a matter of fact, was from 2000 before Christ until nowadays. can see the borders are always changing. They're not fixed borders. The genesis of the Roman Empire here. Some centuries before Christ. The expansion of the Roman Empire to the Gallias, where today is France, all those regions, the Iberia Peninsula, and also Britain, north of Africa. Here we have the apogee of the Roman Empire when Christ himself was incarnated in Palestine. All those books, sorry. Still I have it. It's okay. I'm sorry, we have no time more. Thank you so much. And if we could see I left this video here with Mauricio, who else wants to see it all over. You can see all the wars and the conquerors, the problems of Europe, of the Middle East. And we can understand why we face so much problems, especially nowadays in the Middle East, in those regions, and also the Slavic countries in Europe, all the roots of these misunderstandings about, the situation, the political, social, political, philosophical misunderstandings between those people that we, as a matter of fact, we are part of all this. And this is the heritage of the Aryan society. In a way, it's our father society, it's our origin. And it's materialistic, it's violent, it is a society that is based on wars, on conquers, and that's a big problem that we must solve. On the other hand, they were not so prejudiced about the others. They mixed up with others, and also they were very practical, and because of that, we can have here on the earth the scientific thought, because they were very pragmatic, right? And that's the main characteristics of the Aryan saga that we, as a whole, inherited. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure to be here with you.
Thank you, Gerald. We have a little Q&A now.